The Republican Congressman Matt Gaetz problems, I guess we would call them, continue. And even though it appeared as though that initial investigation that launched years ago wasn't going to go anywhere, but there's an ethics probe, there are real problems for this guy. Whether he's ultimately going to have any consequences, I couldn't tell you. Salon reports, woman tells investigators that Florida Republican Matt Gaetz paid her for sex. Now, immediately, there are Republicans saying, even if this is true, this isn't really a big deal. Now, in most jurisdictions, it is illegal to pay people for sex. So actually, it is a problem. But bigger picture, we have a growing situation in which it becomes more and more difficult to believe that the various allegations that have been dogging Gaetz for years now aren't true. It's almost certainly the case that they are true. That doesn't mean lock them up and it means guilt in a court of law. This isn't a court of law. This is a court of public opinion. And when there is this much smoke, there almost certainly is some fire. The article says, a woman interviewed by congressional investigators said she received money from Matt Gaetz in exchange for sex. Sources familiar with the testimony told ABC News. Gaetz also allegedly paid others to attend parties where people engaged in sex and drugs. Witnesses who spoke with the House Ethics Committee staff previously spoke to federal investigators as part of that probe. According to the sources, witnesses were shown evidence of Venmo payments that they allegedly received from Gaetz and were asked whether those were for sex. They interviewed half a dozen women who claimed they were paid to attend those parties by Greenberg, a former Florida tax collector. In 2022, you may recall Greenberg pled guilty to underage sex trafficking, wire fraud, identity theft, stalking, producing a fake ID card, and conspiring to defraud the U.S. government, and was sentenced to 11 years in federal prison. This is the Matt Gaetz sort of compatriot in a whole bunch of this staff. Last April, The Atlantic published an article that features a former Gaetz staffer claiming he liked to show off his sexual conquests and brag about his use of erectile dysfunction pills to staffers and other members of Congress. On Tuesday, the House Ethics Committee revealed that after the interviews and 25 subpoenas, they are continuing to review allegations that he engaged in sexual misconduct and illicit drug use and sought to obstruct government investigations of his conduct. So listen, morally and ethically, you can think whatever you want about paying for sex. There's lots of people who say, no, it should be legal. Fine. This isn't about that. This is about not only the fact that it is a crime in many jurisdictions to participate in prostitution in any way, the buying or the selling, and also that combined with the illicit drug use runs completely and totally counter to his stated worldview when it comes to ethics and morals and this kind of like strict father morality that he espouses. And in addition to that, if he's seeking to obstruct the investigations that are taking place, then we are talking about additional criminality. And all I want is for him to be held to the same standard as Hunter Biden, right? I mean, listen, if they're going to do to Hunter Biden and Hunter Biden is not even involved in government, at minimum, hold Matt Gaetz to that exact same standard. That's what would make sense to me. And we have a bunch of friends down in the Pensacola area who are much more intimately familiar with Matt Gaetz. And every time I talk to them about it, they go, all of this stuff is true. Everyone in the district knows about it. It's a question of whether they can actually get him on any crime, whether he can interfere with the investigations effectively enough to prevent it from going further. But all of this stuff is true. And again, oh, David, you're not for due process. How can you say that it's true if he hasn't been charged? I'm not talking about guilt under the law. I don't know if they're going to have the evidence to convince a jury. I don't know if they're going to have the evidence to even get an indictment. I don't know if the statute of limitations will have run out. I'm not talking about guilt. Of course, he gets the same due process as anybody else. What I am telling you is that due to the number of the allegations, the number of witnesses to the allegations that go, of course, that's what was going on. And people who are much closer to this guy geographically and personally than I am, it seems obvious that he's involved in this behavior, whether it meets the standards of criminality and whether you could get a conviction is a different thing. But we're operating here on this show. This is a court of public opinion, not a court of law. It is time to start thinking like voters and to make sure that kids understand the importance of voting, how it works, registering, ballot initiatives, because so many kids just have no idea. That's why I wrote the new children's book, Think Like a Voter. I can think of no better time and no more important group of folks to try to reach. The book is now available at davidpakman.com/book, where, by the way, you can get the first 2 books in the series as well. Think Like a Detective and Think Like a Scientist. Really important stuff. Donate them to local libraries, classrooms, read them with the kids. davidpakman.com/book.